Hey everyone, welcome to Stingray. In this video, we will be covering how to concatenate strings and the different types of operators that are used in Python. Let's start with concatenation. You can think of concatenation as joining two strings together. Say you have two different strings, string 1 and string 2. You can concatenate or join them by using the plus sign. Note that concatenating does not add a space between the strings, so I will be adding one right now. How does Python know that the plus sign means addition or concatenation? Well, it looks at the data types. If they're both strings, then the program knows to concatenate them. But if they're both integers or floats, basically the number data types, then it knows to add them. But if one of them is a string and another is an integer or a float, then you will get an error, because the program isn't sure if you want to add or concatenate them. What if you need to concatenate a string and a number in the same print statement? I mentioned this in the last video, but we can use casting to solve this. String casting specifically. Now I'll paste some code in Jupyter Notebook. Don't worry if it looks complicated. What it's basically doing is concatenating strings and numbers which have been casted. At the end, we can also see that you can cast addition statements as well. And if you want to add numbers that are in the string data type, you can use int casting instead. Now we can move on to the main topic of this video, which are operators. These are the basic symbols and keywords that are used regularly in Python, so they are a key cornerstone in our program. The first type of operators that we'll be talking about are the arithmetic operators, and you will recognize most of these as math symbols. Most of these are pretty recognizable. There's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. But there are also some not as recognizable ones. For example, the percent sign is actually the modulo function, which gives the remainder of a division. There's floor division, which rounds down a division to the nearest integer, and there's also the power or exponents, which raises the power of a number to another number. So I've written all of this down in Jupyter Notebook, and you will see the different results that it gives when I run it. If you're using Jupyter Notebook and your code block only has one output, then you don't need a print statement. You can just write 7 plus 3 and it will output 10. The next type of operators that we'll be talking about are the comparison operators. These are variations of the equal sign, and they result in a Boolean value, which is either true or false. Most of these should be fairly straightforward, but just remember that one equal sign equals assigning a value to a variable, but two equal signs equals actually checking if two values are equal or not. Again, I have put all of this in Jupyter Notebook, and here are the results. The last type of operators that we will talk about in this episode are the logical operators, and there are only three of them. The simplest one is the not, which turns true values into false and turns false values into true. So here, if I print not true, then the result will be false. And of course, if I print not false, it will return true. And I can also replace the false with a comparison statement. And it still works. The second logical operator is AND. AND takes in two Boolean values or two comparative statements and returns another Boolean value. The value is based on this truth table. As you can see, it only returns true if both values are true. Otherwise, it always returns false. Here, I have some values that are pasted into Jupyter Notebook. And I also have an AND statement. What do you think the statement returns, true or false? Well, to see, let's break down the individual comparative statements. And print them out separately. We can see that w equals x is false, but x equals y is true. And if you refer back to our truth table, a truth and a false returns a false. So of course, if I print false and true, it will output false. The third and final logical operator is OR. If you look at its truth table, you can see that it's pretty similar to AND. Except that, when there is at least one true, it will always return true. And it takes both values to be false to return false. So if I replace this statement with an OR, it will return true because there's one false and one true. And only one true is needed for an OR statement to be true. And of course, you can chain as many of these comparative statements and logical operators as you wish, so long as you check the syntax. That's it for now. In the next episode, we're going to add some logic to our program by using if statements. Stay tuned.